There's an old saying, if you're in a hole, for goodness sake, stop digging. That's exactly what this training, the 54-second presentation, is designed to do. You'll stop digging the hole financially and, more importantly, emotionally, and start building a business. I really understand what it feels like to know and believe that you have something special as an independent business owner, which is what I call all distributors, reps, whatever you want to call it, it's all the same thing. We're independent business owners. And it can be incredibly frustrating when we can't even get people to look. And I certainly know what it feels like to get sick and tired of people that are closed-minded that need what you have, and they won't even look. Relax. That is not a unique experience. My first 4 years in networking, I had two fundamental moods. I was mad or I was sad all the time. Why? I couldn't get people to look. I couldn't even drag them to a meeting. So I made a decision. I decided to stop asking them to look at what I had and find a way to make them ask me what I had. The 54-second presentation will move you away from that whole emotional and financial into earning money. Look, if we're going to make some money, we need to learn some skills. If you've been to the World's Laziest Networker site, then you know we use two imaginary characters, Al and Nancy, where everything is basically the same. Same company, sponsored on the same day by the same person, same comp plan, same product, same hygiene, live in the same town, same means. What's the difference between people that are cashing checks and ones that aren't? It's simple. It's skills. We learn the skills in the money-making areas. The correct skills do something greater, though. They build confidence. But the really great news, the really powerful concept that I want to get across to you that I discovered in 1995 or 96 was teaching the correct skills and getting positive results for people on my team and helping them make money. This is what solidifies you as a leader, and there's nothing that's going to build checks, not your plan, not your product, not your company, not your goals. Nothing will build checks for people in your organization faster than confidence, and confidence comes from the skills. So you have to learn two simple skills here. One of them is only one sentence. You'll learn two simple skills, and the first one is get nearly 100% of the people, in my case, and in most people's cases, once they've used it for a week or two, it's 100% of the time people will ask you for a presentation. They'll ask your reps for a presentation. And I need to tell you this right up front. Everything changes when instead of you asking people to look at a presentation, they're asking you. When your reps, your independent business owners in your organization, are having people ask them for a presentation, it changes everything. Why? Because when they ask you for a presentation, they're ready to buy and they're ready to join. What do I mean by that? They're ready to buy your next suggestion and they're ready to join you with an open mind, and you really can't do better than that.
And there it is, the big dun-dun-dun question that strikes fear in all of us until we learn these two skills. What is it? The reason we're fearful of it is we've been asked what is it our first 2 or 3 weeks in the business, and we give these convoluted answers, and we can literally see prospects' eyes glaze over, and they're moving back, they're leaning away from us, they're not leaning in, interested. You can sense that they want the conversation to end, and since that question now strikes fear in us, like most people, and I'm like most people, I'm sure you are too, we tend to avoid doing what we fear. Uh-oh. If we don't talk to people, we're not going to make any money. So we need to have an answer to what is it. So this is going to cover the perfect answer to what is it, that when anybody asks you that question, the next thing out of their mouth is they'll demand a presentation right on the spot. And then we'll show you how to present the entire business in under a minute. Now, I know this is almost a repeat, these last couple of lines, but this really does change everything. See, when it's your idea for them to look at a presentation, if you can get them there, they come in with a sales filter up. But when it's their idea to ask for a presentation and listen to it, you're 2/3 of the way home. It's fantastic. I don't claim to be a mind reader, but I do know what you're thinking right now. I know that you don't believe that 100% of the people that ask me, what is it, then follow that up with They want to see a presentation right now. They demand it right now. Heck, I didn't believe it either, but I was so frustrated, either angry or sad, like I said all the time, that I was willing to try just about anything. And this was a life changer. So you've used a frame firelighter, something that strikes interest, and the possibility says to you, oh, really? How does that work? Or, what is it? Same thing. And this is what you do. Well, Harry, I can give you a presentation, but it would take an entire minute. When do you think you can give me an entire minute? And 100% of the time, without fail, they say, well, right now. Look, all you got to do is try this out, and you'll see that not only does it work every time, you'll be shocked at how well it works. And I want to digress for about 20 seconds here. I've been doing this for a long time, and I can tell you that of all the great things you want to give your team, guidance, advice, counsel, getting them to events, there's nothing that even comes close to building confidence inside your team, and there's nothing that builds confidence like the word yes in an area that they had fear in before. So, I know what you're thinking now, too. These are the two things that I do know you're thinking. Well, okay, I believe now, but how do I show the whole business in 1 minute? I mean, how is that possible? So that probably means you want to learn another skill. Yes? Great. So they did say yes, and they did say right now. How in the world do you present in 1 minute? This is really important. It's really easy if you remember that you're sorting. You're still at step one. You're not trying to sell. Now you can get a script there off that link that'll help you a little bit. So go through the rest of the presentation, and you can come back to this slide, and you can print out that script and modify it for yourself.
Let's do a really quick review here. I might have said to Harry, frame firelighter, which you can get tons of them for free at worldslaziestnetworker.com. But I might have said to Harry, hey, Harry, college is expensive. Good schools, they cost even more. Some people, keeping an open mind, have actually found a way to pay for their kids' education with no loans and no stress. Harry says, what do you mean? How do I pay for my kids' education with no loans and no stress? Well, Harry, I can give you a presentation, but it would take like an entire minute. When do you think you give me an entire minute, Harry? And of course, he's going to say right now. So he's asked me for a presentation. I'm going to say, Harry, I need to ask you a couple of questions first. Now, as I go through this, I'm going to digress a little bit and point some things out to you. This will be the only long, really, slide that you have here, but it's really important that you understand exactly what's going on, because if you do, you'll learn it faster. So we're going to ask him two questions, and it's really, really important that you get this first point. This is key. I'm going to give you 3 keys here, okay? Key number 1. I'm going to ask him the first question so that I can present to Harry, to what he needs or what he wants. It's a lot easier to present to what people need and want than present your plan prior to the company. That is premature. You do that later after he's been through the 54-second presentation, because that's what you want to close on. We're really doing step 1 here. Step 1, we strike interest, sort, and book a follow-up so we can give him a presentation. But we want that person, Harry, who's going to come to a presentation, online presentation, business meeting in your hotel, at a hotel, in a coffee shop, whatever. We want him coming ready to buy and ready to join. And this is when it happens. We close at the beginning, not at the end. So that's what I'm going to say is, Harry, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. And the second one I'm going to ask him, of course, is to make sure that he's serious and not really kidding around. So, Harry, here's the first simple question. Just sort of off the top of your head, I think we all think about it from time to time, but what would you like a little bit more of in your life, and what would you like a little bit less of in your life? I guess it's a 2-parter. Let's start with the second one. I like less stress and less bills. And what about a little bit more of? Well, I'd like a little more time with the people that I care about, and I'd like to make some extra money. Well, Harry, what would you use the money for? I mean, what's the one thing? Well, My retirement's probably not where I'd like it to be. I'd like to tighten that up a little bit. And this is what you want to do. Don't ever talk money. Don't say the word money or how much would you like to make. Classic mistake networkers make. What you want to say instead is, Harry, to make those things happen economically, what would it take on a monthly basis? And he says $2,000. Great. Now I can present to his needs, wants, and a specific number. You see, one of the big mistakes networkers make is they tell people about people that are making $20,000 a month, $50,000 a month, $80,000 a month. If it's not in their consciousness, they can't get committed to it. See, people have to believe it before. Let me say that again. They have to believe it before they can do it. We can't do things that we don't believe, okay? And particularly prospects. So what he's going to give me is a number, and the number he's going to give me is a number that he believes is possible. So I'm presenting to the highest level of his belief and to his needs and his wants, okay? So he's going to tell me 2,000. Harry, let me ask you something. You know, no kidding around here. Are you serious, or are you just kidding around about learning how to pay a lot less in taxes and having an additional $2,000 a month to tighten up your retirement? So I'm going to use his number, and I'm going to use his need or want, okay? This gives us a really easy way to close on our objective, which is to get them eagerly to review the information in a setting that we want it in, okay, and agree to a follow-up. In other words, he's ready to buy and ready to join, meaning ready to buy the next suggestion and join you with an open mind. And what's he coming to at step 2 when you're going to show him your meeting, your coffee shop presentation, whatever it happens to be? He's now coming with the hope that what? You can help him tighten up his retirement fund. And the number that he gave you, he believes is possible. Folks, if you get this, you'll make a lot of money in network marketing. It's really that simple. So I've talked a little bit here about what we call the hero's journey. You can learn a little bit more about it. There's a live link down there for you. We run that a couple of times a year. I think you'll love it. The hero's journey is simply the idea that we all want to be heroes in our lives, and that means how do we create a different outcome? That was our multi-million-dollar discovery. So when you have a chance, click on that and go over and check that out.
Now let me just give you a little insight into the presentation. We present this way, in exactly this way, word for word, for 2 reasons. So the prospect will shift from thinking that they're unfamiliar with what we do, that's reason 1, to feeling familiar with what we do. Everybody knows that people are more likely to do what they're familiar with and less likely to do what they're unfamiliar with. So that's really key. Now, once this quote-unquote sale is made, meaning it's familiar to them, enrolling them when you get back together with them after they reviewed some information or come to a meeting, believe me, it's easy. Why? Well, you're helping them experience how easy what we do actually is.
Now your job gets to be a lot of fun. You ask the 2 questions, and then you make a quote-unquote qualifying presentation. What do I mean by a qualifying presentation? Well, you know how in the past you've asked people to look at what you have, and they ask you 5 or 10 questions, and then they say, nah, I wouldn't be interested. I don't have the time. I'm busy on Thursday night. This reverses that process. So I'm going to use Harry's number of 2,000 and his retirement desire, need, or want, whatever it happens to be, and tell him that fundamentally he's got to answer yes to these 4 questions to see if that's actually possible for him. In other words, that will work with him. So it might go something like this. I've asked the 2 questions. Say, Harry, I'm going to give you the 1-minute presentation, and it's really 4 little questions that sort of explain what we do, and you'll have to answer yes to all 4 for us to be able to get you that $2,000 a month to tighten up your retirement fund. In other words, instead of using fear, what I'm doing is feeding Harry's hope. Now, what's really important, your job, is ask the 2 questions, make your qualifying presentation, and realize you're not trying to sponsor Harry, but you're closing on your objective. because he's going to want to qualify. Yeah, I want to qualify. Well, why can't I do this? It changes everything. Okay, you're asking the questions, and he's going to answer yes to all four to come to a presentation. So, what's your objective? Well, you might want to set him up for a 10-minute, 20-minute presentation in a coffee shop, or you give him some information and book a follow-up, or you get him to a webcast or a meeting. Doesn't really matter. But you need to know ahead of time where you're trying to direct them, and it's really simple to figure out which one you should direct them to first. The first one you want to go for is the one that you have the highest closing ratio on, and then second, and then third, and so forth. So this is really a lot of fun. Ask the two qualifying questions, then make a qualifying presentation where he must answer yes, and you let him know up front, just like I showed you. You let him know right up in the beginning of the presentation. He's got to answer all four yes for you to be able to help him get his $2,000 a month and tighten up his retirement. Do you see how this changes the dynamic? It's fun.
So we've established Harry wants $2,000 to shore up his retirement. I say, great, Harry. Here's my little 1-minute presentation. There's 4 things you'd have to do to make a couple of grand a month in our business. First, I don't want you to change. Continue what you do all the time, which is recommend things. I mean, it's part of the human experience to recommend things we like or enjoy, and we all love recommending things that others might like, enjoy, or especially benefit from. And you've been doing that your whole life. That's easy, right? He's going to say yes. Now, this is what moves him from the unfamiliar to the familiar.
Now, I'm actually going to use a health and nutrition example here, but it really doesn't matter if it's cell phone service, travel, skincare. It doesn't really matter. It's very, very easy to substitute in whatever business you're in for this. So, Harry, you're 1 for 1. And remember, you got to be 4 for 4. So here's the second part of the presentation. The next step would be to help me identify 1 or 2 people in the next year who would like to get paid to take an all-natural supplement, have more energy, and improved health. Everyone knows that people today are more health conscious, right? Say right. Does that sound like something you'd be willing to do for $2,000 a month to shore up your retirement? Again, I'm using his reason and his figure. So he's not really saying yes or no to this question. At this point, he's saying yes to what? His life, and that is huge.
Now, question 3 is really cool because you're going to, again, use what Harry wants. You see, it's part of nature that like attracts like. And more likely than not, if Harry would like to shore up his retirement, he knows a few people in the same age group that are facing the same problems. So here we go. So the third thing, Harry, is to find 2 or 3 people just like you who would like to pay less in taxes and make an additional $2,000 a month or so to shore up their retirement. We all know people would like to earn a few extra dollars and pay less in tax. Isn't that true? He's going to agree. Again, this moves them from the unfamiliar to the familiar. Why? Well, nobody likes paying taxes, and everybody would like extra income. Piece of cake. Well, Harry, you're 3 for 3 now. Here's the big one. Not everybody likes this one. I love this one. But if you answer yes to this one, then we're going to get you some more in-depth information. Would it be okay with you if we work together as a team so I can show you hands-on exactly what to do and how to do it, and gave you that kind of support until you were making at least $2,000 a month and felt great about your retirement fund? Well, obviously, Harry's going to say yes to that because we all know the hidden objection is what? Adults don't want to be criticized or embarrassed. If they know they're going to get hands-on support, they'll move forward. Now, at this point, the presentation is over, and it's time to the next step. Remember your sorting. If they're not in agreement with all 4, just put your hand out. If they say, no, I don't want to do that, to 2 or numbers 2 or 3, you put your hand out, you shake their hand and say, hey, so it's even less than 30 seconds. I really, really appreciate you listening to this, okay? So just thank them and move on. But most of the time, about 85 to 90% of the time they'll enthusiastically answer all four if you have got that information about what they want. You notice how it's woven in through questions 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so they're really saying yes to what? To what they said they wanted in the first place. So you want to close on your objective. And that I already went over. It's your number 1 choice, number 2 choice, and number 3 choice for them to experience step 2.
Now, why this works is pretty simple. It's that word in the middle of that first sentence, familiarity. There's so many things that you've run through Harry that he's familiar with. Let's see if you pick them all up. You see, you hear a lot about the 80-20 rule from network marketers if you go to YouTube and type it in there. And every single one of them has the 80-20 rule exactly backwards. It was actually created by a guy by the name of Pareto, and actually was the first person to attach mathematics to economics. And he created the 80-20 rule. And it's really interesting that network marketers have it backwards, but you're not going to have it backwards. One of the key things that we learned from Pareto is people are far more likely to do something that they're familiar with. So in that short 54-second presentation, you reminded him he's familiar with recommending. He's familiar with nutritional awareness, or could be, let's face it, all network marketing companies, whether it's a travel deal, a cell phone deal, a skincare deal, none of the network marketing companies out there are in shrinking markets. They're all in growing markets that are on the news. There's articles about them and everything. So he's familiar with that. He's familiar with the idea of extra money. He's probably daydreamed about it every day. He's familiar with taxes. He pays them every other week. He's very familiar with what he just told you about who? Himself. His hopes, his fears, his needs, his wants. He even knows how much money it would take to fix it. See, people, again, this is so important, they're more likely to move forward with what's familiar. And the 54-second presentation resonates on so many different levels. Familiarity within Harry, that he's ready to buy and ready to join your next suggestion. Why? Because people are far more likely to do what they're familiar with than they're unfamiliar with. And personal assurance about what they're unfamiliar with, that's going to come at step 2. When you present the business to him, you're going to show him how you're going to hold his hand. And we explain this in the Hero Journey skill set. Again, you can get that at Go90Grow at the World's Laziest Network, or just click on that link and you can learn all about that. But this is very, very important, which is why I'm dwelling on it for another 30 seconds here. One more time. People, including you, are more likely to do what they're familiar with than they're unfamiliar with. Did you know that you wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time? You go to 20% of the restaurants that you frequent 80% of the time. You're more likely to do what's familiar, and so am I, and so is your prospect. So that's why this works. It's just incredibly powerful. They don't need to know about plan, product, scientists, and all that. It's premature. Get him familiar. Build his hope, because you're sitting on a great deal. You know it'll deliver a couple $1,000 a month with him. Make sure that you close every single sentence or every single part of this 54-second presentation. You're closing over and over again on what he told you he wanted. I told you at the beginning, before we start the presentation, we uncover what his needs and wants are, and we present to his needs and wants. Why? They're familiar to him. There's an old saying in network marketing, work smarter, not harder. Work smarter, not harder. But nobody tells you what that means. So I'm going to tell you exactly what it means. And next time you hear somebody say, work smarter, not harder, say, can you tell me specifically what you mean? Exactly what I should do? So I'm going to tell you what you need to do. You need to practice. Leverage the 54-second presentation. Why? Because instead of you working hard and harder and harder and harder to get somebody to look at a presentation, prospects are now trying to qualify to see a presentation in less than a minute. It's an easy skill to learn. It's an easy skill to teach. And once you learn it and teach it and help them master it, any IBO, independent business owner, whether they're a rep, a distributor, whatever, doesn't really matter. Every company's got a little bit different name. They're going to be excited, and they're going to grow in confidence, because All of our success is based on skill, not talent. It works if you practice. Everybody knows repetition is the mother of skill. Unfortunately, in network marketing, most people don't practice. The difference between successful distributors and unsuccessful distributors or business owners is really simple, isn't it? The successful rep is simply going to do the things that the unsuccessful rep makes a conscious decision not to do. Okay? Most people can learn this in 10 to 20 repetitions. Me, it took me 40. I got a learning disability, so it took me twice as long. 40 whole minutes. Do this with your team. Do it in small groups. One of the things we did was had a 54-second party, and had people come over, about 10 or 12 people, and we just did it back and forth with each other, just paired off and just kept moving around. Had a pot of chili. It was fantastic. Because it built everybody's confidence. They couldn't wait to get out and use it. These simple skills work if you work them. Okay, that's the thing. My wife, the fabulous Davine, likes to say, all you got to do to make money in network marketing is have guts. And she's not talking about being brave. GUTS stands for go use the skills. So learn the 54-second presentation. Use the 54-second presentation. I got about 8 or 10 more skills just as powerful. And that's a live link there for you, worldslaziestnetworker.com. 54-second presentation changes the game. Peace be the journey.